Hey everybody, welcome to Jon D Podcast. I'm your host, Jon D Miller. Welcome to episode number 67, everybody. Number 67, número 67. In the old Espanol language, that's right. 1,211 going on 1,212 days as I begin to record this intro of No Booze. No booze, yeah, no booze. How are ye's, how are you's, how are y'all's? Yeah, I say intro because I have an awesome guest on the episode here today, tonight, wherever you are, whatever you're doing. First met this guy 20 years ago, almost. 2004, my first trip to Ottawa to do comedy, and it was a little scary. I had to drive up there by myself from D.C. to Ottawa, capital of Canada, and I get across the border, all that stuff to do. I've been to Canada before, but with family, and it was, whatever. It was personal stuff. This was work, and it was, I don't know. It was a little daunting, but met this guy, saw him first. I was like, man, this guy is awesome. This guy is awesome. I want to know more about this dude. And as I got to know him, I realized, I found out a genuinely funny, honest, sincere, and cool as hell person. And we had a great conversation through the power of modern technology. This whole thing was a long time coming. We talk about comedy. We talk about his jokes a lot because I'm a fan. So why wouldn't I? But we also talk about other stuff and travels and how it affects life and how life affects comedy. And it was really, really cool. I had a thoroughly good time. We lost touch at one point for a little while, but, we always kind of kept tabs on each other. And he is none other than Mr. Darryl Purvis. And you're going to love him. All right. Real quick, though, make sure you follow me on social media. Jon D Comedy, Jon D Podcast on Twitter. That's right. Suck it, Elon. Jon D Podcast on Facebook. Jon D Podcom on Instagram and Threads. You can email the show, jondpodcom@gmail.com. But of course, don't worry about that for right now. Just hang out, relax, and enjoy my conversation with my good friend, Mr. Darryl Purvis. And here he is, ladies and gentlemen. Please welcome to Jon D Podcast, my longtime friend, my awesome buddy, Mr. Darryl Purvis. Everybody, Darryl, what's up, man?
Am I allowed to speak now?
You're allowed to speak now.
Yeah,
What's up, dude?
Right. How's it going, buddy?
All right. How are you? It's been a long time. This has been a long time in the making to get you on here. It's been a long time. I mean, in the intro, I'm sure I'll tell a little bit of the story, but I first met you. We were working together in Ottawa at the Absolute Comedy Club in Ottawa.
2003,
2004, yeah. Because I always reference when I know people or certain events happen by where I live or who I was dating. That's all I've always done it like my whole life.
Yeah.
So I remember where I was living when I went up to Ottawa for the first time, and that was when I met you, and that was in 2004. So
And I know because I was just starting to talk to my first wife then.
Okay.
And then I moved to New York with her in 2005. So I knew it was before 2005 for sure.
Yeah. It was Thanksgiving weekend in the States of 2004. It was actually when it was.
Oh,
and I actually had to go up and I had to kind of sneak into Canada because I didn't at the time have, I don't know if I could say that. Maybe they won't let me back in. I'd love to go back.
I'm pretty sure the Canadian immigration don't care about something happened
so
in 2004.
But I didn't have a work visa. So I went up to the border guy. And he was like, "What's your business in Canada?" And I said, "I'm just looking around." That was my. And they searched my car. Searched the trunk, pulled out the spare, all that stuff.
Huh.
But I got through, and then I got up there, and I got up to Ottawa, and as I'll probably tell the story, in the intro. But I got up there, and I met this dude. I'm like, "Who is this guy?" I don't think I talked to you much before the first show.
That guy was J.R. Remick.
You know what? My wife was asking me earlier. My lovely wife, Liz, was saying, who was the headliner that week? And I said, I don't even remember. I just remember hanging out with Darryl a lot. And we were drinking.
Because he wasn't a big drinker, so you and I drank a lot.
Yeah, we hung out, had a great time. And I don't think we actually talked, because I got up there to Ottawa. I'd driven up there from D.C. I was living in D.C. area at the time. And I got up there. And I talked to you a little bit before the show. But then we went on. We were staying in the same condo. They had a comedy condo. And then we went from the condo, we went over and I was talking a little bit. And then I watched your first set and I was like, fuck yes, this guy is awesome. And we just hung out afterwards and we've been buddies ever since, man. So
yeah, we did do a little disappearance act on each other there. We didn't really talk for a few years, but you have a family now. So you
Yeah,
have other
yeah,
things going on,
sure.
and didn't even talk to you when the Capitals won the Stanley Cup.
I
Didn't
know.
even get to
And
wish you a happy Stanley Cup.
I know. Well, I do seem to remember posting on Facebook because the memory of that was 6 years ago. So my memory popped up on Facebook of that. And I remember putting on, I saw on there, I put on there all the anguish, all the pain, all the tears, are all gone. It's all just joy now, or something along those lines. And I just remember you like like nothing else.
Well, look, I'm one of these people. I don't, as a Toronto Maple Leafs fan, I don't know how many hockey fans are listening to this, but man, I will never be happy for another team's
Right.
fans.
Well, I just did my last episode. I just did a big Stanley Cup preview and stuff like that. I didn't even talk about the Leafs. I did talk about them a little bit in the previous episode, and I was talking about the Panthers and everything. But I was talking about how Edmonton and how everybody in Canada, I'm rooting for Edmonton to win because I want the cup to go home because it's been since '93 since a Canadian
Mhm.
team won the cup, which was a little bit kind of bullshit. I mean, I know that the numbers aren't there all the time, but yeah, I always, whenever my team goes out, dude, whenever the Caps are out or they're not making the playoffs, I become a Leafs fan, and I
Well,
always
they
root.
go
I
out
always root.
way before the Capitals most years
Which,
now.
by the way, and well, maybe we'll cut this out later. I don't know, but by the way, the overtime winning goal, was it Lundmark or whatever for the Bruins? He went to dump it in, and then
Oh yeah.
Pasternak went in and got it. He was behind the red line, so it should have been a fucking icing. I'm telling you. Did you not see?
Oh
Have you
yeah.
not seen that?
No, no, I'll tell you, I was in the UK doing shows and I was on an overnight bus back to London. So I had my phone, but I didn't have good enough Wi-Fi to be able to watch it or anything or listen
Right.
to it. I was trying to listen to it at the very least, but I couldn't. So I literally just had it on the NHL website,
Just
watching
watching.
little updates as they roll through, telling you what just happened.
Yeah.
So when they scored, it was kind of like
Uh,
after the fact because I literally had my texts from friends going,
oh.
fuck and stuff like
Ah.
that. And I was like, so I didn't see any of that game, not a single second, because strangely they weren't playing that game on any bar I was at in Liverpool.
Right.
Not a lot of hockey fans in Liverpool, I don't think. And so, yeah, I was on the late night bus trying to get back to London so I could get a couple hours sleep before my wife and I did some things the next day. Like, yeah, I was trying to be a good husband, so I came back thinking I think we're going on a food tour of Camden Town in London that next
Oh,
morning at 11
that's
a.m.
that sounds
So
like a
I
hoot.
basically I got back at like 7 a.m., slept for 3 hours, and then went to that. So yeah, I didn't even see any of that game. I've never seen a goal. I heard he let in two weak goals.
Yeah.
That's what you get for getting a Capitals goaltender.
Well, hey, they let
And
him go for a reason. So
yeah,
they let him walk too. They didn't even trade him. They let him
yeah,
walk.
as the
So
Leafs will be letting him do this year too.
yeah, I'm sure.
He just lets in so many easy goals. I can't figure out if he has ADHD or something and he doesn't pay attention. But it's bizarre. He'll be like looking the wrong direction, and then they'll just shoot the puck from the other side. And it's like, oh, where did that come from? And you're like, what did you just do? That
Yeah.
was the whole season with him.
Yeah.
So
Well, all right. So let me get your opinion now. So you rooting for the Oilers, or you
no, not at
no?
all. My
You rooting for
wife's
the?
from Edmonton, and I need them to lose. I
You need
need
them to
them
lose
to
because you don't
lose.
need her gloating. Is that
I
what it is?
don't need her gloating.
Ah, see, this is the thing. Rivalry. See, like my wife became a hockey fan because of me, so she likes the Caps. She just roots for my.
Mhm.
But we're both Cowboys fans. We were when we met, so that's kind of one reason why we met. So there's not been any of that inner house rivalry, I guess, however you want to say it.
Mhm.
So I've never had that, but yeah, okay.
Well,
So
it's
she's
terrible in our house because she doesn't care at all about hockey. But
oh
she'll
well then.
trash talk me about the
Oh,
Leafs,
see, that's
and
bullshit.
you're like, eh.
No, can't bring that back into it. Like
So
if
yeah,
she's gonna be out, then she's either in it or she's out. It's okay. So
she's a proud Albertan, is what she is. She's proud to be from Alberta, so she supports the Oilers and not the Flames, though strangely enough. Um, but yeah, she doesn't watch a single game all year long. I
right,
put the game on for us last night. We had friends over. One of her friends from Edmonton, strangely enough. So I put the game on for them to kind of watch while we played cards. And I watched it more than they did, I would
Oh, I
say.
watched I watched every second of it. Well, I take
Yeah.
that back. We did get back from dinner a little late, um but yeah, no, it was a good game. I so all right, so let's hear about this. So you're rooting for the Panthers though, right? Is that what you
I'm
or
not,
are you just
I
not
want them
rooting?
both to lose. Can they both? Because who are you cheering for in this series? Are you cheering for, do you really want to see like Evander Kane or Corey Perry win? No, you don't. You
No,
don't want
I
either of
don't.
those guys to
Well,
win.
see, my
And then
last
you go over to
episode,
Florida. Do you want Sam Bennett or do you want Kachuk or do you want Gudis? None of those guys. You want
well,
none of
Gudis
those
isn't
guys
there
to win.
anymore. But yeah,
Oh,
no,
that's right. He's gone. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
But you don't want any of
no.
those guys there.
The last episode, I said I was literally sitting there going, I don't know which one. I said I want the cup to go home, but I don't want Evander Kane to win a cup. And then,
Hmm.
but at the same time,
Corey Perry even worse than Evander
Corey
Kane. I
Perry,
mean, yeah.
absolutely. So I didn't even bring him up. But with Bobrovsky, I don't know. I kind of feel like he's coming to his own. He's 35 years old. It took him forever, but he finally.
He's a weird goalie because he's a hot or cold. He's one or the other, right? Like he was killing the first two rounds of the playoffs last year, and then going back to a little bit to normal. That's when they lost in the finals, I'd say. He was
Yeah.
back to normal, but he's just hot. When he's good, he's good. When he's bad, he's not good, I guess.
Hmm.
But yeah, yeah.
That's
So are
why.
you really cheering for the Oilers, huh?
Oh yeah, man. I
All
want the. I think the Cup should go home to Canada. I don't know if they're going to get it. I
right.
did call Edmonton in 7, so that was that. So.
All right.
Well, I love hanging out with you Canadians. That's one reason why I used to love going up there. I mean, I remember talking to Canadian people about hockey, and they're like, "All right, shut up." Like, okay, I get it.
We
I
have
love.
other interests.
Yeah, exactly. So let's not all do hockey here. Let's get into this. So, Darryl, tell my listeners a little bit about where you're from and a little more of your background to how you got.
I'm from Canada,
Yeah.
from the East Coast, Nova
Mm-hmm.
Scotia, the town of Antigonish, 4,000 people, lovely little town. We have a show there next month. And then I moved to Toronto when after I graduated university and started stand-up. And here I am 26 years later. You know what's weird? I literally talked to three people only today before you. All three of them I met in probably the first month of doing stand-up.
Hmm.
So weird that those are the three people I talked to today.
It is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Well, because you've done a lot of stuff. So let's go back to that. So you moved from Antigonish, you moved to Toronto, right? And
Hmm.
your first ever stand up set was at Yuck Yucks. And
Yes.
you knew from
Yeah.
the very moment that you did it, that was what you wanted to do. You wanted to
Oh, I knew before
be a
that,
comic.
but that's
Okay.
all I ever want to do. That's why I moved to Toronto, other than the fact that I was a Leafs fan and a Jays fan and I had family here, but that's why I moved here. Yeah, first show went really well and I knew this was what I wanted to do. Second show was terrible.
Yeah, it happens.
Absolute destroyed. I was getting heckled constantly.
Was this at Yuck Yucks as well?
No, this was
No.
another show at something called the Groundhog Pub. Funny you can remember this 25 and a half years later, 26 years
It
later.
is funny how it creeps up on you, right? Because
Yep.
you never forget your first time, and then you probably don't forget your second or third, especially when they were different places, right? That's
Yeah.
why I always joke that comedy is like sex, right? So it's like your first time, it's very awkward and blurry. You know what I'm saying? You don't really know what you're doing. And then the second or third. But okay, so you knew you wanted to do it from beforehand, which is
Yeah.
right. But since then, you've gone on, you've worked in, so you lived in say, New York City, talking about that,
Hmm.
San Francisco, LA,
Hmm.
and then you just got back from the UK, right? What
Yeah.
was I mean, so basically what I'm setting up here is your timeline. So you went through, you did all of that, um, and then from there you've gone on to. So what was the UK like? Because you just got back.
It's good. I mean, I'm starting to go there a couple times a year, and I really quite enjoyed it. It's full on comedy, man. They love comedy over there. It's all over their television. It's yeah, they just treat comedians like artists. Like they support them, they enjoy
Like
them.
the way they should be.
Yeah, the way it should be. I mean, like I said, there's more comedy clubs in London than there are in Canada,
Hmm.
which is insane when you think about that. Like that's,
That is pretty
you
crazy.
know, yeah. So, I mean, Plus, the whole UK is the size of, one Canadian province. So think of 68 million people who are comedy obsessed. There's just so many shows. It's so good. I think my friend Bobby Mayer, who's a comic over there, was having beers with him last week, and he said it's something like 54% of people in the UK go to at least one comedy show a year. At least.
I mean, that's
That's
pretty high numbers considering how many
yeah,
people in,
that's
let's
you're
say, for instance,
talking,
States.
yeah.
Yeah,
You're
they
talking
don't
like,
do that.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, how many people other than coming to see you, go to a comedy show at some point? And just
I know a
very
few
rare.
here and there. Yeah, it's not the. It definitely has a varying degree there that I would think would be as not as up there. Um,
Yeah. I'll say this about European countries. They love alcohol.
this is true.
So
This is true.
in a way that I don't think we understand. And that was what I couldn't believe, but like I still am blown away by how drunk people are in Europe.
Hmm.
But not like you and I getting drunk and we're walking down the street hammered, eating a slice of pizza or something like that.
Right, which has definitely
It
been done.
you walk through the streets of like Liverpool or something, and there are thousands of people. Like
Right,
they are obliterated, just walking from pub to pub. Just you're like,
but they're
how is this
maintaining.
every night? Yeah,
Yeah, they're just holding
it's
it.
yeah, yeah. But they're like literally, I can't. I keep saying this. I can't believe in 1 month in the UK how many people I saw bang into walls because they were so drunk, just walking down a street and
Nice.
then just veer off right into a wall. And you're like, wow, this is amazing. And I like to drink. We both know that about me. I enjoy it, but
I did too
it's
much. So
yeah. I would much rather never headline a comedy show in the UK. I would much happier being the opening act. There's
right,
so many hammered people. It's like I guess it's like university, I guess. Like, that's
right.
what it kind of feels like. Everybody in university got a homecoming or something when everybody's been drinking all day during the big football game or
Oh,
whatever. And
they do that
yeah.
here. I think it's one thing. It's funny because I was going back. I was watching some of your stuff, your Comedy Now special. I was watching some of your other stuff. Some of the jokes. Actually, some of the stuff it was great because it was jokes that I saw you when I first met you. One of the things in Canada is they say university. They don't
Oh yeah,
say
you guys say
we go to
college.
university. We say college, even if it's a
Hmm.
university. I, which I think is just funny. I don't know. I don't bring it up more than just to say the differences in some of the stuff. The way just Canada, just right up there to the north of us,
Yeah.
has its own little sort of
Well, we have
intricacies.
college here too, but college is more of a technical thing. Like you go
Yeah,
to a
yeah.
technical college or something.
'Cause I remember being up there and doing a joke, and it's this old joke I used to do about being a lifeguard in the pool of balls at Chuck E. Cheese. That was the, and I think it was you. I think might have been you or somebody was like, we don't say, and then, at the end of the joke, I go, I knew I should have stayed in college, just like one of those little kind of funny taglines. And
Hmm.
you were like, we don't say college, like we say university. It's like, all right, this is
Yeah.
fucking whatever.
I
Sorry,
mean, we're two different countries, man. What do you expect?
yeah, your newest album, comedy album, Throbbing PB and J, right? Which is, yeah, you didn't think I did this much research on you, did I?
Yeah,
Did
I
you?
can't believe it.
Did
It's
you think
kind of it's flattering.
with what you've done? Because I'm actually jealous in a way. Bring up this question: what has living and being in all these different places done for your comedy? As far as what has it taught you from going to different places? I think that's one of the things I always liked, especially about when I used to go on the road a lot. I went to Ottawa, I went to the West Coast, I went to East. What do you feel like being in all those different places sort of taught you as a comic?
That's a tough question. I don't know.
I feel like I should
I
have sent these questions to you ahead of time.
No, that's fair. No, don't. Please, don't ever do something like that. I don't know. Like I don't think about like I did so little stand up in California because it's kind of I almost refer to them as my lost years where I was kind of drifting through life. But New York, I guess, just man, there were so many good comics.
Yeah, well,
The
it's New
thing
York.
about
I
New
mean, you're gonna
York,
get
yeah,
yeah,
it's every comic is the best comic in the city they come from. And
right.
you're doing shows with guys who can't get on at comedy clubs, even though they go back and headline all the clubs in the state they're from, and it just, I think it kind of made you taught me to work harder. That was
Right.
the number one thing. Like you need to hone your jokes.
Up your game. I know every time I
Yeah.
went and visited New York, even when I went and hung out with you up there or other people I knew, yeah, you would. I'd be out working the road or something, and I'd be like, oh, I got my shit together. And then you go to New York and go to a club and see somebody go up there and just destroy for 20 minutes, and nobody's ever heard of them. You know what
Never,
I mean? I
ever.
mean, they
Yeah.
might be known sort of locally in the that club scene, but as far as I'm like, I've never heard of Mike so and so.
Yeah.
And they're absolutely some of the funniest people you've ever seen. You're like, well, fuck. All right, I'm gonna start over again with what I'm
Yeah.
doing.
And it's crazy. Like you think about the people that we used to do shows with, like Hannibal Buress and Eric Andre, and it's- those guys were always around. And who else? There's so many good comics. Amy Schumer was always around when I was there. And
Right.
is to think of the money that those people made. And they weren't any better than anybody else. You know what I mean? It was just like everybody was so good that it's crazy to think of how these people just found a way to get through. But it's work. Some
Right.
people just work harder than others.
I think some people work harder. I think they also sometimes their work gets recognized more. And I'm not even necessarily saying that it's like an aesthetic thing, but I feel like maybe their work just rings
Maybe, but
a
I
little more
think,
true with people.
it's funny when you give someone the chance. Once someone has a little confidence,
Right.
wow, their joke. I know my best jokes are when I'm on a hot streak or something like that, and then I'm writing way more, and then those are my better jokes, I would say. I feel like different stages of my life, and it feels like I was in different places in my head, and I
Mhm.
don't really think about my time in the States. A lot of the times I forget I live there until almost like I'm talking to an American, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I lived there for 5 years.
Oh yeah.
I can't,
Yeah.
I kind of forgot that
Right.
there was my lost years.
Right. You
Um,
were off on a journey.
I was on it. I
Yeah.
was discovering myself. I was a very immature 30-year-old living in the States is what I was. Um, because, yeah, I came from a small town. I was very sheltered by my family. I was a very, yeah, I always,
Well, it seems to me, from like what you're saying, and I would agree with it. There, like I was saying, like certain things in your life. Like I remember like when I met you, I remember where I was living at the time. So
mm,
what that does is it kind of triggers back to me is where, I remember, mentalities and mental states and financial situations and everything else in life that was sort of bothering me or, interfere, just whatever it was. And I feel like that has such an influence on me. And I feel like every time I've gone somewhere or lived someplace that, when I really, um, what the jokes I wrote were reflective of the time that I was in and the place that I was
yeah,
in life. So I was just wondering if you felt like it was maybe a difference as opposed to like, for instance, like how was Toronto? Like, you're talking about New York City, now you're in Toronto, which is, you know, basically that kind of like the New York City of Canada.
yeah.
Big media,
Don't
big
tell
markets.
Canadians that they'll be upset.
No, they won't.
But
No, I wouldn't. I would never say that to a self-respecting Torontoan. I might say it to a kid from Nova Scotia, a small town Nova Scotia, but who's seen both
mhm,
and can relate to how they they vary. I love
yeah,
Toronto though; it's a great town. Now I do not know the comedy scene that well. I only went there one time
I don't
to
either,
do shows. So
because it's weird. Like when I first started, I I was so into the comedy scene because I was young and I was starting, and I loved it, and my friends were all, just so driven, and we all wrote together, and we loved, supported each other, and now it's a little different. Now it's like I come back, I'm older. I don't go out to any mics or anything like that. I rarely get to book to do shows in Toronto. I'm I have my friends that I started with, but those are the people I still talk to. But yeah, I'm rarely in the scene. I go to the one comedy club that I work at, or the two comedy clubs that I work at, and I usually just do my show and get out. And it's different being older, you're not sticking
right,
around hanging out with all the the kids, they're going to another show that starts at midnight. And you're like, oh no,
No.
I'll
Oh
be
yeah.
long asleep by midnight. Are you kidding me?
Even where I live now, sometimes I mean, there's almost an open mic every night of the week. Now some are better than others, but it's funny how sometimes there's nights where I can do two. So it's like a 7 o'clock
Mm,
show, and then you go 6 blocks away, and there's another show. Or the younger comics like, hey, we're gonna go get something to eat, or we're gonna go, and I don't drink, and they know
yeah.
that, but they're like, oh, we're gonna get something to eat. Like, hell no, man, I'm going home. I'm gonna go, but no, I
Yeah,
got
but back when you were young, you would have been all over that. You're
oh
like,
yeah,
yeah, let's
let's
go
go
out.
out and
Yeah.
let's do stuff.
Can't tell you how many times I had Chinese food at 3 in the morning, just sitting around with a bunch of comics, drinking and
Yeah,
talking and about comedy and whatever. And that just doesn't. I mean, I have my friends. I'm not gonna say we don't go out and still hang out and talk about comedy. I mean, I did it just before I moved to or went to London. A bunch of us were hanging out, but yeah, it's just kind of different now. I'm not going to those mics, and when I'm working out material, I'm working it out at a comedy club.
right,
Not like the old days where you write a joke and then you're at 10 open mics that week just trying to
right,
hone that one joke.
right.
Now it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna try it on the Tuesday night and see if it works. And then if it works, I'll bring it back out on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And then by the end of that week, you have a joke. But yeah, I don't know. Because yeah, it's just weird. I think like you mature and you age and whatever. Like I find that now most of my jokes are less jokey and more story about what's going on in my life.
Hmm.
And we were talking before we started recording about kind of a bad week for me. And
Right.
I sat down and I wrote what turned out to be a 1,700 word story about it the other day. And in my head, I'm like, okay, well, tomorrow I'm sitting down and I'm getting that cut in half and I'm adding at least 10 punchlines to it. And then maybe I'll go try it at a comedy club on Tuesday night and see if it's anything. And then that's kind of my life now. It's kind of coming from the shit that's happening. And a lot of the time it's not the good shit. It's like
Right.
skin cancer. I got like an 8-minute bit about skin cancer
Yeah.
and I got, and I'm a lot less jokey. Look at my roommate has a Yoda poster on his door. Like, and
Right.
it's not, it's
Right.
not in like useless stuff like that anymore.
What I would say is, from going back and watching some of your stuff and having known you for so long, I see the evolution in your comedy and your jokes. So, for instance, one of my favorite jokes is Sleep Country, right? I
Oh,
love,
geez, I haven't done that joke
yeah,
in
yeah. You haven't done it a
decades.
very long time. I get it,
Yeah.
but it's about how you are not a good morning person and you get woken up with a guy trying to deliver a bed, and the side of the truck says "Sleep Country." It's like "Sleep
Yeah.
Country woke me up." But then I go and I listen to throbbing PB and J, right,
Mhm.
right, and I listen and I can hear the differences in the joke, especially when you talk about the skin cancer and the way you sort of put more of yourself, because when you start out
Yeah.
doing jokes, you're like, this is kind of funny, haha. But then you start putting yourself sort
Yeah.
of more into it. Like you'll sit down and be very technical about it. Sometimes
Sometimes, but
I thought maybe it's
sometimes
because you
if
learned
it's a
stuff at
story, it's more
university.
sitting down
Maybe
and
that
figuring
what it
out.
was. This is what we taught in university, my business degree.
Well, yeah. Well, look, I was the laziest person in university. I finished 97th out of a class of 107 or something like
So
that.
small.
Don't think I was
Yeah, yeah.
studious or anything like that. I think if it's a story, I sit down and I write and I try to figure it out. But a lot of the times it's usually something that happened to me and then it's in my
Mhm.
head forever. And then all of a sudden I'll think of, I don't know why. I'll just be walking down the street and all of a sudden I have a punchline for that story that happened to me 8 years prior and I don't know
Right.
why. Like literally this week, I was writing a script for something and I put a story in that happened to me when I was still dating a single when I was on Tinder. And the story about how I was on Tinder in a public washroom, just sitting on the toilet, going through Tinder, and I dropped my phone and it literally slid to the next stall right between the guy's
Oh,
feet. And literally the next guy sitting there, and I look down and my phone is
right.
facing up to him on Tinder, and it was just this weird, which I've never really had a punchline for. But then I'm just sitting there writing this other thing, and I went, oh, and then in my head I was like, it just suddenly, and now I have a new joke to try out. For some reason, I don't know why something else
Right.
jogged that one memory. All that happened was the guy just sort of slid it back to me with his
I've been
foot,
like,
but I was
hey, what
like,
do you think of her?
it was just a
What do you think of
weird
her?
situation.
Well, tell me
Yeah,
what you think. I know you're not busy. What are you doing?
yeah.
So what do you? What is? What do you think? No, yes, left, right. What are we doing?
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, it's kind of funny, but now that I'm sitting here writing a story, then I know I'm going to sit down tomorrow and just try to pound out some jokes into it. Like I want it by Tuesday night that I want to be able to take it to the stage and go, I'm going to fill this whole 10-minute set with this one story, and I want to see what I can get out of it. Because I'm starting to realize, you know what, the easiest way to fill a 45-minute set is with just a few
Right.
stories. Like they go a long way, as opposed to the old days where I would literally do a 45-minute set and I would have to remember 60 to 70 jokes. I just can't do that anymore.
No.
I don't know about you, but trying to remember I remember having set lists with like
Right.
73 jokes on them and going, how am I going to remember this? Like it was insane. And now I'm like, well, wouldn't it be better if you had like six stories and that's it,
Well,
45
don't
minutes,
you
all
find
done,
yourself having to
bye-bye.
remember all the parts of the subtle nuances and the punchlines of the story themselves kind of get to be because that's what I find.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, I kind of always felt this like in school with history. Like it was so easy to remember so much of history when you
Right.
just treated it as a story. And I think once you make it a story, then your brain is it just this and then this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened, and this. I will say that like the skin cancer bit that we keep referencing, there's three jokes that go with it afterwards. And I'll tell the body of the first story, and then I'm like, what are the other three? I have no idea what the other, and I'll be saying on stage going, I know I have
Right.
three more jokes about this, but I can't tell you what they are. But that story is just you're on autopilot once you start
Yeah.
telling the story. I think that's, our whole childhood is our parents telling us stories and you remember
True.
them, like
I know that, like for instance, I'll go to do a joke. I have this new bit about people who dress up in costumes, right? And how some people judge other people for being in these costumes and what's acceptable and what's not. And I keep having this one story because I haven't told the joke a million times. You have to get it ingrained into your system. And I will literally sit there the last 3 times I've done it, and I have this awesome tagline to it. And every time I get done with my set, I'll go back and listen to it because I always record on my phone. I leave the fucking tagline out. I'm like, why did I not get a good joke at this?
yeah,
Laugh at this one part of the joke. Oh wait, dummy, you didn't
yeah,
put your thing in there.
yeah. That's you tend to get bigger
Yeah,
laughs when you use the joke.
but I've never been a storyteller, and you have evolved into more of that sort of a storyteller. I think, especially with Throbbing PB and J, which I think it's good, man. It's funny. I listen to it, and I can literally just see
Thanks,
you
man.
telling the story. I especially, and I don't want to give the joke away because I want people to listen to it wherever it's available, which is, I thought, yeah, it's out there everywhere. I forgot
Everywhere,
where
I
I
think.
listened to it. It wasn't YouTube. It was it Apple Music? Maybe, could be
Could be
Spotify. Yeah, it
Spotify,
was one
anything
of
like
those.
that. It's out there.
But the story about how you got the name for the album, which was not the name, how you got the name for the album, but what reference it is, what you call the album, which is the Throbbing PB and J, which is about about your mom's books.
Yeah, it's not a dirty joke at all, really. Yeah, and the funny thing is, the person who did the artwork for the album clearly had never heard the
Right,
joke.
right.
So he has the artwork is a peanut butter and jam sandwich that is
Yeah,
very veiny. I'm like,
you just went
yeah,
with it.
whatever.
Fuck it. Fuck it.
Sure.
Who cares? We don't
Yeah,
care.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's not dirty at all. It's kind of an older joke that just kind of evolved, and that's all it is. It's kind of weird. It's kind of, unless I find an old set list, and then a lot of times I'll see an old set list and I'm like, wonder what the hell that means. Like, I have no idea what half of those names of
Right.
jokes are because I just don't remember anything. And I wish I recorded everything because I'm always seems like I have no new material and that I have this wealth of jokes that haven't used in 10 years and I couldn't even begin to tell you what This actually happened just a few weeks ago. I started to think about this joke that I told way back in the day, and I was like, I wonder what the
Mm.
hell the punchline was. Like and that's kind of it's hard to repurpose something when you can't even remember the punchline. But I don't know. Yeah, no, yeah, my memory's not great, and I don't. I just everything once it's out of my head.
I've definitely had some times lately where I've come across an old set list, and I remember the main gist of the joke. But like I was saying before, like with the tagline, it's like you're like, I can't remember it. What about
Yeah,
that was the other joke I was
yeah.
remember. I'm laughing about it still. You're talking about being at work, right? And how the company you're working for
Hmm.
are hiring mentally challenged people,
Hmm.
right? This goes back to the whole where like and then you're
Hmm.
sitting there at work and you're like, oh, am I mentally challenged? I was literally that was probably one of the jokes that well, when I first saw you, I was like, man, I got to hang out with this dude. I got to see
This mentally challenged
see what
dude.
this mentally challenged person has going on. All right, Darryl. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take a little break, okay, and then we're gonna come back and we're gonna talk to you some more. All right. So everybody, stick around. More episode 67 of John D Podcast with Darryl Purvis after this. When I quit booze for good, one thing I learned was to always keep your palate entertained. And one of my new favorite ways to make it happen is BlendJet 2. BlendJet 2 is portable, so you can blend up a smoothie at work, a protein shake at the gym, or even an NA margarita on the beach. It's small enough to fit in a cup holder, but powerful enough to blast through tough ingredients like ice and frozen fruit with ease. BlendJet 2 is whisper quiet, so you can make your morning smoothie without waking up the whole house. Lasts for 15 plus blends and recharges quickly via USB-C. Best of all, BlendJet 2 cleans itself. Just blend water with a drop of soap and you're good to go. With over 30 plus colors and patterns to choose from, there's a BlendJet 2 to complement just about any style. What are you waiting for? Go to blendjet.com and grab yours today. And be sure to use the promo code JohnDPod12 to get 12% off your order and free 2-day shipping. No other portable blender on the market comes close to the quality, power, and innovation of the BlendJet 2. They guarantee you'll love it or your money back. Blend anytime, anywhere with BlendJet 2 Portable Blender. Go to blendjet.com and use the code JohnDPod12 to get 12% off your order and free 2-day shipping. Shop today and get the best deal ever. BlendJet 2. And welcome back to part 2 of episode 67 of John D Podcast with my very special guest today, Mr. Darryl Purvis. I should say this evening. Darryl, you brought up an interesting note. I didn't even think about it. The last time the Leafs won the cup was in 1967.
And then thanks for having me on episode
I did. That was not
67.
as I was saying during the break. When the band was playing, what I was saying was right. I actually no, that was probably a BlendJet commercial and maybe a little bit of music, but I was saying it was going to be 66, but then which is Lemieux's number. But anyways, I'm sorry, buddy. It wasn't on purpose.
It
It
just
wasn't.
comes up a lot somehow in life.
Yeah, I hear you, man. No worries. I just thought it was funny. I'm going to mention that. All right, so let's go back to a couple of things. I want to talk to you more about earlier on in your career. When you were first starting out, did you find like what were the challenges you felt that you had early in your career that things you had to learn, unlearn, ways you had to be like with your comedy, and do you have any lessons that you learned then that you still think now?
Anything that I learned, finish your set.
Yeah.
I think no matter how bad it's going, get to the end of it. I had the worst set in England this trip around, and I had to do 20 to 25. God, did they hate me from the get-go.
Right.
As soon as I stood on stage and said I'm from Canada, I saw a bunch of guys cross their arms, and I was like,
Oh,
"Oh, here we
yeah.
go."
That's called a defensive posture, is what that's called.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you could tell they were trying not to laugh, and it was just one of those things where you're like, I I could see the MC coming to get me. It was going so badly.
Right.
It was like probably the worst I've had in 10, 15 years. It was just like they did not want to laugh. And then the MC came, I'm like, no, I'm gonna finish my time. because we're talking, it was a small crowd and talking before the show, and he's like, if we just get close to our time, then that's all I care about. And I'm
Right.
like, and I'm up there dying. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna take this time to maybe try a couple of new ones.
Yeah.
So, or stuff I've never done in the UK before to see if this stuff can translate over here. And that's the number one thing is just do your time. It's hard, even if you're dying, do your time.
You know, that's one of the things I get younger comics, they'll talk to me. One of the things I tell them, always, stick the landing is what I tell them. Like, you're doing your routine. It's like gymnastics, you flip, do, boom, or
Hmm.
whatever. And whether those people are listening, they're talking, whatever, do your routine, stick the landing. And that's,
Yeah.
yeah, that's good advice. That's good. I'd say the same thing. I concur.
It's hard I find it hard to give advice about comedy because everybody's different. Everybody writes differently. Everybody has their own way of doing things, and there's no right way.
You were just in the UK, but what is your spin or your thoughts on things that do transfer and don't transfer between sort of the two things, between the two countries, or three countries really? You have the States, Canada. There's a little difference there, but a big difference with going to England. What's your spin on that? What do you think?
I think I mean, unless you're doing very specific to your country, most things work over there because they have a lot of American television and a strange amount of Canadian television. I'm always surprised when I'm over there seeing a Canadian TV show. I'm like, seriously,
Right,
you guys have so much talent. Why would you watch Canadian television over here?
right,
Yeah, I think I think that's what people think is going to be really different, but it's really not. It's because they know everything about you guys.
right.
There's flat out USA. What's that? USA Network? Is that what it's
Well,
called?
there is, yeah. Well, I think
That's one of their networks. That's one of their channels is the USA
right. They're
Network.
getting all the
And
worst television. Jesus.
yeah,
Are they watching Full House
yeah,
over there still? Are they really? Not
I
even the reunion
know.
one, the fucking original?
I know. Is that on the US? What
I
is it?
don't
The
know.
USA Network?
Yeah, but there is a USA Network, yeah. But I don't know
Yeah,
what
yeah,
they do
yeah.
over there. I know they do have, like, for instance, I had a friend of mine who had lived over here, originally from the UK, lived over here for a long time, became a Caps fan, and was, I was emailing him one time, and I was like, man, I don't have any cable. I'm trying to watch some of these some of these playoff games, and he was like, oh, just go on this website. But he's like, this is how I watch the games in the UK now. It's like, no shit.
Yeah.
But it was all British stuff. It was British coverage of North American sports.
Oh, like actual British announcers for hockey?
Well, no, but they would just take the feed, but it was on like British, like their British
Yeah.
ESPN,
Yeah, Sky.
Sky.
Sky
Yeah,
Sports.
Sky. That's the one. I talked to you a couple months ago, and you were talking about you were getting ready to go over there, and you were like, yeah, I like it. I do this, I do that, and you were talking about the comedy and everything. But what do you think about the actual lifestyle? Because you're actually thinking about going over there and living. Is that correct?
Yeah, 100%. The plan. I don't know. I really enjoy it. I just think it's not what we grew up with. And I really maybe I'm tired of living over here. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like
I just don't want to be in this anymore.
uh yeah, and you know what? Why not experience the world, live differently?
Right.
Different chocolates and stuff, different candies. Yeah, why not crisps? They call chips crisps.
Yeah.
Isn't that
It
crazy?
is. It is weird. I know when I was over there, I remember going. I mean, I went there when I was younger. It's been a very long time, and yeah, that's the thing. Flats instead of apartments, flats,
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Lifts instead of elevators, which makes perfect sense. It lifts you up. But yeah, I don't know. I enjoy it over there. It's just kind of different. I mean, my wife and I talk about going to different places, as we get older, maybe retiring to Portugal or Spain or something like that. And
Wow.
we've seen all of Canada. We've seen most of the states.
Right.
What's left for us over here? You know what? Why not see part of a different world, live in a different
Do you think you could do that though? You could just go
we
live in a completely different culture just for like pretty much essentially what would be the rest of your life.
But why not? What's the difference? You can still watch everything you want. You can watch every hockey game, like you just said. You just go to
Right.
the whatever. I mean, it's all there on the internet now. You can still talk to your friends every day. You can still.
Right.
I miss COVID. I love that. I loved.
Speaking of isolation, I
Yes,
gotta
I
admit, man,
loved
I except for the fact that I almost drank myself to death during the first half of it, and
Mhm.
then I sort of came out of it at about the last third of it, I guess, when people were really kind of locked down. But other than that, I kind of liked it. I liked it being like, I
Oh
like the fact that
yeah,
people were going, no, we want you to stay home. And I'm like going, yeah, I can do that.
yeah. That
Don't
was
leave your
wonderful.
house.
And
Okay. I can do
We'd
that.
play games with friends and family every Friday and Saturday night, and it was wonderful.
Yeah. What?
Anyway, so think of it that way. You're kind of like, even though maybe you don't speak the language, you still have everything you need. Like
Right. You still
I
got
mean,
your
why
still
not?
got your friends, right? Still got friends,
Yeah,
and then you got Full House, and you got all the like.
yeah. You got Seinfeld.
Yeah, no, I always say, the internet is such a blessing and a curse, and the way it works nowadays, of course, is you can do almost anything with it. I mean, you can find anything you want, any bit of information, you can find any bit of video or anything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, where did you go in the UK? Because you know what, when you were over there, I noticed I had some listens in different parts. Did you go to Scunthorpe? Did you
No,
not?
we
Okay.
listen wherever Scunthorpe is.
It's
Where
up.
is
It's
that?
up. It's not. We're getting off top. I think
Which
it was.
country is it in?
It's in the UK. It's in England, I believe.
Which country? Oh, in England,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, but it,
Scunthorpe.
Scunthorpe. But I actually did a. This is one of my favorite things to do. This is just a funny side note. Lately, I will find places where my podcast gets listened to. So people out there listening who might be in other countries, especially, if I find that interesting town, I'll go to Google Maps, and I will literally just do the Google map, like the street walk, and I'll just take a tour of all these little towns.
Of
Scunthorpe or
Scunthorpe.
Scunthorpe. I'm trying to say it wrong. You know what I
Did
noticed
you
though?
like it?
This is funny because this ties back into what you were saying. Man, they had Domino's, they had Subway, they had a
Domino's is everywhere.
KFC.
It's a running joke between my wife and I about
There's always Domino's.
Domino's because we everywhere we go, Aruba. Hey, Domino's.
Who was?
North Lake.
I guess that's. I guess you go to I guess you go to UK and
Oh, it's not far from Manchester. Not far from Hull.
yeah. Okay, so you're looking
Okay.
it up. Yeah, I did a whole street. So whoever listened to me in Scunthorpe or however you say it, they probably doesn't have the heart of P on the end either. But I did do a Google Map street walk of downtown Scunthorpe, and I got to tell you, it's a nice town. It's a nice town.
I want to see something
It's
here.
a very nice town. I don't know. I'm not saying everybody would say that, but you know how it is when you live someplace. You're like, this place sucks, but
Yeah.
that's because you're there all the time. I think it's probably the biggest
I
part.
was really close to Scunthorpe. There's a chance I went through that on the bus back to London.
Uh,
Or
but you probably
the
weren't listening
because
to the
I did a
podcast at the time.
show. No, doesn't look like the bus would have gone through Scunthorpe, but not far from it.
That's so
I did
funny.
a show in York, which is
Yeah.
one of those places where I talk about like I can't believe how drunk and this was what could have been the best video ever because it got to York. My show was at 8. I got there at 7. I had nothing to do but walk around and I came across this street performer playing music and he was just surrounded by a bunch of hammered people at 7 o'clock, just
Well, they
as they would say up there, leathered,
le-
just
just
leathered, they
leather.
would say.
What were they celebrating
Um,
anything? Or
singing along with this street performer's music and everything. And so I videoed it because it was 7 o'clock. It's still bright as can be out, and they're just so drunk. And then I went and did the show, and I came out of that show at like 10:30 or 11. The same street performers
he's still there.
still there,
That's awesome.
but now there's only like 4 or 5 people, and it's 2 women. And then I saw one of them just kind of look around and turn, and then just hammered the other woman, just threw the biggest punch. Like, and I was like, "Oh, you should have been recording this because that would have been like the difference between York and London and the UK between 7 p.m. and 10:30.
Right.
It's just now 2 women are on the ground beating the shit out of each other. I was like, that's well, Scunthorpe, if you're listening to this, you'll know all about
Right.
York because apparently that's where a lot of people in that area go to party.
Oh, well, there you go. I don't know. I just thought it
Yeah.
was funny. I was like, why am I getting so many listens in the UK? Well, Daryl's in the UK. Maybe he just turns it on for a second, so I get a listen, then he leaves and he doesn't even listen.
I don't even do that with my own
Right,
podcast.
exactly. Which hold on a second. We haven't talked about your podcast. I feel like we've been all over the map here on this interview, but it's been just so much fun. It's just like kind of like catching up. But you have your own podcast that you are on. It's where's the beer cart, right?
Or bar cart.
Bar cart.
We
You
don't
say.
always just drink beer.
Oh, true. They do have
We say beer cart. We say bar cart.
bar cart.
Depends who you're talking
Where's
to.
the bar cart? But it's officially
Yeah.
where's the bar cart, and that is you are on there
Yeah.
with 2 of your buddies. Well, go ahead and tell us about it. I've listened to
3
it.
of us now.
3 of you now.
Three
Right.
very funny. Monty Scott, very funny comedian. Nick Jury, very funny comedian. And Gina Phillips, very funny comedian slash actor. But
Okay.
yeah, we just talk about golf. And we used to be more serious where we interview people, but now at the moment it's just us just yapping, and we're pretty stupid.
What
That's the
what do
only
you
way I
find
can.
yourself usually talking about? Like, what do you?
Usually nothing to do with golf. I'm not gonna lie. It usually goes off in some terribly just ridiculous. If you ever get the chance to work with Monty Scott or watch his comedy or listen to his comedy, he can go off with some directions that you're not expecting. Let's just put it that way.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know. Just we try to keep it on golf, but it never works out that way. It's for comedians. What chances do you have to stay on topic?
Right. Well, I mean,
You
I do
know?
have some listeners out there that do play golf, and some of them are comedies, some of
Oh,
them are
if
not.
we get a listener from Scunthorpe,
I know. If we,
I'm gonna be.
Scunthorpe
Wouldn't that
out
be
there.
something?
That would be funny. Once we get an email from Scunthorpe, that'd be great. You can email the show, johndpodcom@gmail.com if you want. You can. That's the official email. You can do that. Scunthorpe, if you're out there, I want to know who you are and how you know about me. Um, that's so funny. I don't know. I was like, I wonder, are you in Scunthorpe, Darryl? I almost wanted to message you, but it was about 2:00 in the morning your time, and when you're in the UK. So
I would have just got it the next morning. It's not that bad.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know how you work.
My ringer's turned off. I don't see anything in it all night long.
Right. I want to go back real quick because I want to talk about a little bit about your family. So you came from a large family in a small town,
Mm-hmm.
but one of the things, and it's another great joke, because I love when you talk about your family, talk about your parents. One of the jokes that you have is where you talk about your mom being like overly dramatic, right? And you say,
Mm-hmm.
you tell her, she says, when's dinner? And she said, dinner, I could be dead by dinner. I was like, well, then you better get to cooking. like,
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
what kind of
Which is actually not even my mother. That was this is what my mother, she's no longer with us,
right?
thankfully. Uh, but that was an ex-girlfriend's mother
What
who
was it?
said that to her.
Oh,
And then I wrote a joke about it.
right.
And my mother got angry for making fun of her, but it wasn't about her. Some girl I dated for like 3 months. It was her mom that said it, not me,
That's
not
awesome.
my mom. It was, yeah, but my mom got very upset that
You wrote a joke about something else.
I told this joke about her, and I was like, it's not even you. I don't, I don't understand.
I could see how she could maybe misconstrue, right? You know how to.
Yeah, well, my mom was a weird woman.
I hear
Let's
you.
not get too deep into that. We
No, no,
were
I
close.
won't. I won't.
Yeah.
I won't. I just thought it was a great joke and just one of those ones where there was a little bit of truth in it. I didn't know it was somebody else's mom, but you said it to somebody's
Mhm.
mom, which I think is one of the funniest.
Yeah.
Well, then you should get to cooking. That's the way it works. But everybody in your
Yeah.
family is a D and P, right? D. So
Hmm.
it's all, and the great joke is where your mom says, "Oh, that happened by coincidence." Is that a
Yeah.
true story? I
Yeah.
don't think I've ever asked you that.
Yeah, it's a true story. So the whole joke is that all my family starts with D. There's because I don't tell this joke very often. It's
Yeah, you name them all,
Debbie, Donna, Deanna, David, Darian, Douglas, and me, Daryl.
right?
And I asked mom, and she said, yeah, she said how that happened. She said it was just a coincidence. And that joke's kind of developed now, where it's because I said, why don't you be honest? You're just busy having sex. Turn the page in the big book of baby names.
That's right.
Close your legs, open a book. Woman is what I'm trying to say. And then I asked my dad, and my dad was like, "What can I say? Your mom loves a D." And I was like, "I can tell you what you shouldn't say, Dad." But the funny thing is, Dad never said that. That was an audience person who told me one time.
Nice.
And
Well,
I was like,
yeah.
"That's great. That's a great ending to the joke. That person nailed me and nailed me, did me a
Did
big
you a
favor
solid
by
there?
yeah." My mom also got mad at me for that joke too. But
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
What are your?
My mom got mad at most of my jokes, to be honest.
Yeah.
That's why I had to kill her.
Did you? Well, right here on the podcast, is that what we're releasing that information? Getting into way more than I thought we would. But that is one of the things. Like my dad saw me long before my mom ever did. I didn't let my mom see me do comedy until I was headlining Wiseacres, where I started. Well, that you came and worked down a couple of times. And she was actually very cool with it. But my mom was also very cool in the fact that when I was a kid, she let me listen to, like my son's age, like 11, 12, 13. I was listening to Richard Pryor and Eddie Murphy and, all these comics that were definitely way too on the dirty side for me, but they were supportive. So
Mhm.
that was always kind of cool. Very
My
cool.
mom would have been the opposite, but
Well,
yeah, well, I remember when my comedy special came out, we tried to keep it a secret from her.
the Comedy
We
Now
were-
special, you tried to hide it?
yeah, we were trying to keep it a secret from her.
Oh,
My sister was everybody's like, just don't tell her. Don't tell her. There's nothing good is gonna come from this if she knows. And then the stupid network ran promos, and then of
of
course she
course she
saw
found
it.
out about it. What did she say?
Yeah.
What does your mom say when she finds out you have a national TV special?
Oh, well, first of all, there was a warning.
It was a warning.
There was a warning about language
Oh,
in front of mine.
oh,
So right off the bat, my
that's
mother
not
was
good. Yeah.
furious. Yeah, that's not good at all. So yeah, I was one of those few people that could have their own national comedy special and have their mother tell it was the most embarrassing moment of their life or something like that, she said to me. And I was like, thanks, Mom. Thanks a lot. Most moms would be more supportive, but
Um,
mm,
yeah. I mean, I could see where that would be like. I
yeah.
appreciate that.
I mean, she would, because there's actually a joke about how I make fun of some of my friends who do drugs, and I don't do any drugs.
Yeah. Oh,
And she got mad at me
right.
for having friends who do drugs. I'm like, but
You know,
I don't do them. Who cares? Like, I don't understand. Like, you should be very happy that your son doesn't do any drugs.
well,
Like,
plus
nothing.
that joke, because I literally was just watching that joke the other, like last night, and you were talking about how they call you at 5:30 in the morning, which is awesome, dude. The fact that you rattle it off the way you do is really, really good.
Oh man.
But you're like, and just like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. It was great. And then at the end, it's like, is that water? Click. Like, dude, it was so perfect. It's so succinct and perfect, and the way you do it, you deliver it so like, bam, 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 and then it's done. It's a good joke. Well, I gotta say,
Thanks.
I disagree with your mother on a lot of
Well, it's
that.
hard to tell her now, but
I know, but
she was an odd woman.
yeah, I hear that. I
Yeah.
hear that. So what are you working on now? Let's talk about what you're working on now. Let's talk about where you're going in life. What are you kind of trying to do? I know you were talking about, and we're not going to get into it right now. Maybe at some other point we will. But what is Darryl Purvis working on? What are your plans for the future? Um,
Well,
I know we were talking about you
John, I
might go
don't,
live other
my
places.
career's a bit in upheaval right now. So, we're talking off. I just got fired from something.
All
So
right.
trying to figure out what the next process is kind of weird because I've just spent the last 5 months writing script after script after script. And then now I kind of
It's
don't know
over
what to
now.
do with my day. So, I don't know. I mean, right now just trying to book a bunch of shows, trying to fill calendar.
Right. So people can get you
And
at what? DarrylPurvis.ca.
.ca.
.ca, not
Yep.
.com.
Um, yeah, don't go to .com. That's something going on in China over there.
Is
Uh,
that what it is?
must be a
Is
Chinese
it Daryl
comedian
Pur?
named Darryl
Is that what it
Purvis.
is?
Well,
DarrylPurvis.com.
I let it expire, I think, and then
So
it's just one of those things where
somebody came and
it's
bought it.
gone forever now. Yeah, it's
Ah,
gone forever.
nice.
But it's all right. CA work. And that's what I'm working on right now. I mean, I literally sitting down and writing that. I think we talked about earlier, that story. I'm gonna try to
Right. Punch that up.
put a bunch of punch lines in that tomorrow. That's my goal. Is very much what I want to get done in the next few days. I want to, like I said, bring it to the stage by Tuesday, hopefully. We'll see how it feels by tomorrow night. But yeah, other than that, just trying to book shows. Trying to. I thought I had a. It's a weird story, but yeah, I thought I'd be working
Right.
for this show for the next little while, and then now I'm not.
Right.
So how do I fill that time is the question,
Right.
and pay the bills.
Yeah.
That's the bigger question.
Well, that's one of the things about being a comic. And people ask me all the time, why did I get out of it? Because I didn't, for a couple different reasons. One was because I felt like I wasn't getting anywhere, but also because, I could support myself, but I couldn't really support a wife and a newborn baby, doing it. Which, but you kind of found to do that. So you know what you're doing, as far as that. But a lot of
Yeah,
people don't.
it's funny because I think about my friends that I started with and how many of them left to get real careers,
Right.
and being so sad that they felt that I felt so sad that they thought they had to go do that. And strange enough, I'm meeting with one of them on Tuesday about getting fired. So
Right.
he'll be my
So
lawyer
his
as of
exactly.
Tuesday.
So his career leaving comedy
Yeah,
benefits you, who was still in the comedy.
eventually, yeah, yeah.
It's not a terrible
So
plan.
no, no, no. But I always think,
I mean, it's going to work
but
out. So
those guys have such good lives, you know. Well, my life's good. I'm not gonna lie,
yeah,
but yeah, you're always like, oh, what if I had gone in a different direction?
yeah. I've thought about that a lot. We were talking before. And we, like I said, other people I know who are big now in the business and everything. And you sit there and you go, wow, what if I'd done this or what if I'd done that? But I also realize, sometimes you just can't, just can't worry about that. Kind of got to move forward with it, man.
Yeah, you gotta keep chugging. We've come this far, man.
I know.
I mean, it's a little late to pull out now.
Yeah, no pun intended. Um, do you have anything though from when you were younger where you go, it's like, you change one thing and look at it go,
Yeah, I mean, I think that maybe I shouldn't have treated it as such a party when I was younger,
mm,
you know. Um, but I always worked hard. That was the thing. But I still, you go away for a show and maybe you shouldn't drink every time,
yeah,
or
yeah,
especially you're at a festival or something. Maybe just take it easy.
yeah.
Just
Don't
relax.
have 10 free beers. I don't care if they're free.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. I don't know. I don't have a lot of regrets. I just wish things had turned out differently, like I had a weird trajectory. As we've talked before in our lives, I just took off like crazy in my first 2 or 3 years, and then it was almost like the Canadian comedy industry went, okay, that's enough of him.
Mm.
And now it's been a battle for the last 22 years, just trying to make my own place, you know?
So you haven't done anything where, and I don't think you have, but and not necessarily, it's not necessarily about changing things. I think that one of the mentalities I've tried to adopt as far, especially like when I quit drinking and everything else like that is, one of the moments I have to take every day, every week, every month is a moment where I can give myself something to make myself happy, to make myself go,
Hmm.
hey, this is the right path that I'm doing. Even if it's not comedy, it's related, just that I as a person am sort of doing that. Do you find that you have moments in your life where you're doing that just as a person, just as what Darryl Purvis, not just a comic, but just kind of, a little bit of a personal insight into you where you sit there and you kind of think to yourself, all right, this is my mojo.
Oh no, I mean, look, I have a good life. I have a wonderful wife, and I we enjoy our life, and I say a lot, we have a good life
All right.
because we do have a good life. It's hard to, when you're lucky enough to be able to go sit on a beach in Aruba, it's hard to go, oh God, I wish my life had been better. You know what I
Right.
mean? It's kind of hard to have that feeling.
Sure.
I mean, did my career go where I thought it was going to go? Not so far, no, but who knows what's coming up? Who knows what's around the corner? That's a funny thing about this industry. You just don't know,
Right.
right? You just don't, especially nowadays with the way the internet works and whatnot. But no, I have no regrets in life, and I enjoy my life, and I mean, yeah, I wish I made a bit more money, but at the end of the day, you know, just working with someone recently who had a lot of money and he has no kids, and he's like, well, I'm not taking it with me, so might as well spend it. And what? Yeah, that's money. I mean, it makes your life better. It makes your life more miserable.
Right.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I have no regrets in comedy. I worked hard. I tried hard. I never. Sometimes shows went bad, and there's nothing you can do about it. Sometimes you know what? You're at a festival and you have a bad show, and then they don't want to book you ever again. You're like, I wasn't the only person who had a bad show. There's no. I mean, that's life. Just
Right.
what can you do? So yeah, I don't know if that even came close to answering your question
No, no, that's right.
but
That's what I was getting at.
no, I like my life. I There's nothing really here I want to change,
Right.
It's a good life.
Right. Nothing too dramatic. It's awesome.
Yeah, like I said, comedy. I mean, I've met enough people that have gone to fame and fortune through this, and was I as good as them on a lot of shows? Of course, but the right breaks. Not everybody can become rich and famous,
Right.
you know. So yeah, there's nothing I want to change. Maybe if only I could remember more of my old jokes, that would be nice. But that's
Don't
about
worry. You're
it.
preaching to the choir, man. You're preaching to the choir.
If anybody's listening to this, they're probably like, I hate this guy.
Who
But
the fuck?
I'm
No,
sorry,
no.
I have a good life. I
No,
have a
that's
good life.
awesome.
I'm lucky.
Darryl Purvis, I love you,
I'm
man.
lucky. I love you
You're
too, buddy.
just
I wish you'd come back to Canada.
I'm gonna get there again eventually. That is the goal at some point. And then when I do, I'll probably, I don't know, I might try to make it so it's summertime or something like that when there's kids don't have school, or kid doesn't have school. And make it, I don't know, some sort of a family affair. Like, all right, Daddy's got to go work now for a little bit. And
Yeah.
plus, I love, I don't know. I always like being up in Canada. I always tell people all the time when I go up there, some of the best clubs, the best crowds, the best everything I've had in comedy. And I've been a lot of good, pretty decent places, but some of the best ones I've ever been to were in Canada. I mean, they're just, I don't know. I love Canadian people, and like I said, I mean, we started off the show talking about it. We were talking about hockey. I could do it all day. I love the game.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, you can find Throbbing PB&J available wherever you can get comedy stuff. Apple Music, I believe is I was going back and looking at it. DarrylPurvis.ca. Do it on that, right? Throw that on there. Look up the website.
I'm on the socials, Deeper Comic,
Yeah.
DPUR Comic, if anybody wants to.
Deeper Comic.
If you're in Scunthorpe, what's it called?
Scunthorpe.
Scunthorpe. Look, we'd love to have you on the socials.
Yeah.
I see it's close to Pocklington, talking of hockey. Former owner of the Edmonton Oilers, Peter Pocklington.
Oh, okay.
Scunthorpe, not far from Pocklington,
Huh.
UK. True story.
I just thought it was fun. Yeah, anybody in Scunthorpe, next time Darryl's back, go to darrylpurvis.ca. You can book them.
I'm trying to see if I'm near Scunthorpe at all next time through, but I don't think so.
Darryl Purvis, you're awesome. You're welcome back anytime. If not before, you have to come back for episode 87. We were talking off.
Yeah, let's 87. Let's Sidney Crosby. Can we have a whole episode dedicated to Sidney Crosby?
No, you cannot, because Sidney Crosby is from your hometown or just right around?
No. 2 hours away.
2 hours away. Okay, but he's from Nova Scotia, so.
Hey, there's all these rumors he's been hanging out with a lot of Leafs players in the last few weeks in Toronto. But I know he comes here and plays a lot of poker in the off season too. So
okay. Well, there you go. You got inside Canadian information right there. That's what that is.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Well, you know what? If not before episode 87, you have to come back for that one. And
I'll do 87 with my Sidney Crosby shirt on. Let's do it.
That's fine. Well, this is audio only, so we'll tell people that you're wearing it. We can tell people you're wearing one now, but you're not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
That thing. Darryl Purvis, thanks for being on here. You stick around. Don't go anywhere. But to everybody else, all my listeners, thanks for listening. And Darryl, we'll see you real soon, man.
Scunthorpe, I love you.
Later, buddy. So how was that, everybody, huh? How was it? Did you enjoy hearing from Darryl? Love that guy. Love that guy. All right. Anyways, thanks again to Darryl Purvis for coming on the podcast. Make sure you check him out at darrylpurvis.ca. I'll have a link to his website in the show notes. Make sure you check out his newest comedy album, Throbbing Peanut Butter and Jelly. I kept saying PB and J in the episode. He never corrected me. I don't know why. But anyway, very funny. I feel like we talked about his jokes more than anything, but I'm a fan. So, why would I not? Why would I not? Right. All right. Yeah, definitely good stuff. Okay. All right. I got to get going. I'm not going to do a whole huge read on the charities and everything for right now, but make sure you like, subscribe, download, tell your friends. Don't forget your charities. No Kid Hungry. They help school-age children who are in situations where they need meals away from school, like weekends and holidays. Wounded Warrior Project, helping the brave men and women who serve our country get the best care they deserve when they return home. Bestfriends.org, helping homeless dogs and cats in shelters get adopted faster and in more numbers. Their goal is to make the entire country no-kill shelters by the year 2025. I guess I did do the whole read on that one. All right, so check out Support Those if you get a chance. At the end of all that charity, if you got time for a little charity, don't forget you can support the show through our official listener support app, Venmo, at John D. Podcom. Don't forget Twitter, John D. Podcast, John D. Comedy. Yeah, I said Twitter. Suck it, Elon. You can write to the show, John D. Podcom at gmail.com. Facebook, John D. Podcast. Instagram and Threads, John D. Podcom. Executive producers for John D. Podcast are Tom Handcuff and Liz Miller. Thanks to them each for helping make this happen in their own ways. This episode was recorded and produced by yours truly, John D. Miller, in the Amber Tree Media Studio. Don't forget blendjet.com, John D. Pod 12 as your code for 12% off and free shipping. And yes, it does help support the show. Just please make sure to put the promo code in there. Okay? All right. That's been awesome. I had a great time. I love Darryl. He's a fantastic dude, and I hope I get to see him in person again sometime. And he'll be back on the podcast again. Less interview, more hanging out, just having a good time. All right. This has been episode 67, numero 67 of John D. Podcast. I've been your host, John D. Miller. All right. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. And until next time, later for you.